Hello, listener, and welcome to Book 5, Chapter 18 of Bite-Sized Tales, the audio flash fiction podcast. In today's chapter, we continue the serial story, The Burden of Protection. The Burden of Protection, Part 7, Reach the Shore. In Part 6, Garret and Phrixus made their way through the rough-and-tumble port town known as Camp Trollblood. They were in search of the sailing vessel owned by Garret and its captain, Chandra. They found the captain and her crew in the midst of escaping from the angry pursuit of another group of sailors. Chandra displayed some of her own mystique by revealing a magical flaming blade and a living tattoo of a dragon on her skin. Using said magic, Chandra and her crew were able to escape to her ship, having a surprising reunion with Garret and Phrixus in the process. The trio, along with Chandra's crew, hurriedly left port and made their way out to the open sea. Garret watched the town of Camp Trollblood continue to shrink as the foul-mouthed Tane pressed deeper into open waters. The Nar slowly arced westward, aiming itself toward the setting sun. Of all the thoughts in his mind, Garret settled on his sister, wondering how she might be faring. He knew sickness was common in pregnant women, some having it worse than others, but the mention of her being bedridden by his father continued to nag at him. For all the grief he would unleash upon her in relation to her passionate proclivities and other lustful habits, he still loved her dearly, never wishing her ill. She was always the more capable of the two, the more mature, his banishment from the family proving that last point to him resoundingly. Yet here he was, undertaking the sacred family mission, something he thought he'd never be able to do again after the banishment. His thoughts drifted from his sibling toward the child in her belly. With no knowledge of the father, what would this new wrinkle mean for the Westdown family as a whole? Did their father accept the man? Did he even know who the father might be? As they continued to drift, Garret settled on thoughts of his own mortality and his own legacy. Before he could arrive at any conclusions or drift any further, his attention was drawn to a pair of arms draping themselves over one shoulder and around his waist. "You were quite the welcome and pleasant surprise, Master Westdown." Chandra's voice was smooth and warm. Garret smiled. "I must say I'm quite thankful you were still in port. I was hoping, and you did not disappoint." "I try to make it a point to never disappoint you." Chandra gave him a slight squeeze, then sent a puff of her breath towards his ear. "Your timing could not have been more perfect." "It was a gamble, but my luck does seem to be running good of late." "I am not as convinced that our timing was perfect. If we'd arrived sooner, we may have been able to spare you the creation of a new enemy." Chandra loosened her grip as Garret turned to face her. "It is another to add to the list. Gabriel is angry because he cannot play pirate's fate to save his life. Plus, like most sailors, he spends far too much time on the water with other men, making someone like me quite a distraction." Garret laughed. "It is good to see that you still think so fully of yourself." Chandra became perturbed. "Are you trying to say that I am not beautiful? I seem to remember many breathless expressions of my appearance, several times." Garret's smile remained as he defended himself. "Of course you are beautiful, Chandra. That is not in question. And while that may have been a distraction for Captain Gabriel, might it not have been the presence of your tattoo? Or perhaps your name itself? It is well known amongst the dispossessed merchant princes in the southern isles, the ones who were taken down by a certain auburn-haired rebel captain." Garret pointed toward the sheathed sword at her side. "Or mayhaps it could be that you are in possession of the flaming blade of Cymbeline, a weapon stolen from one of the aforementioned princes? Could it be any of those, perhaps?" Chandra considered his words for a moment, then returned Garret's smile. "No, it is my beauty. I'm sure of it." The laughter shared over the jest faded, and Chandra looked westward. "So it is time again, yes?" Garret nodded. My sister is unable to commit to the journey, so my father was forced to stoop and request the aid of his banished son. I see. Are you hoping to get back in his good graces with the deed? Garret shook his head. I am not. Then why are you doing this? I am still a Westdown. This is our obligation, our duty. Garret paused. Plus, I know my sister would want me to complete it. Helen is ill. Garret considered his answer before committing. She is. It wasn't a complete lie, but he wasn't convinced Chandra needed the entire tale. But her prognosis is sound. You know my sister. She can consume great quantities of wine and imbibe in a variety of both mundane and fantastical leaves. A simple illness will not keep her down for long. Chandra nodded, then smiled. Poking at Garret's midsection, her finger began to meander lower. I know there are parts of you that won't stay down long, Garret. He took her hands in his, returning the smile. Very true. But here, on the Tane, in the presence of your crew, is not the time. Perhaps once my vow is complete, we can find a lovely port and some time alone. Chandra's smile turned to pursed lips. Duty before pleasure, then, if we must. We must. I should like to accompany you once we reach shore. Chandra made the statement, leaving little room for negotiation. Oh? And why is this? You truly do miss me? Garret mocked. Now who is the one who thinks too much of themselves? While I am pleased to see you, I have an odd feeling about this. Is your dragon speaking to you once again? Our sight speaks to me always, Garret. You do not want to know what he says about you. Garret laughed. Well, I do now. As the sun broke on the eastern horizon, the foul-mouthed Tane lowered its sail and switched to oars, beginning the controlled journey to the waiting shore. Gray sands stretched in all directions, save the water, with only the occasional obsidian stone jutting forth to mark a break in the muted plain. The sky above the vessel was dotted with clouds, but they seemed to merge into a gray mirror of the surface as they reached the line where shore met sea. Garret remembered the last time he was here and how nothing seemed to have changed. Dead and ashen, Garret thought to himself. He looked toward his companions and the crew. Chandra bore a visage of concern, and the dragon tattoo on her skin curled toward her back, keeping itself as far away from the shore as possible. Phrixus's eyes spoke to curiosity and wonder, while all of the Tane's crew held fear in their gaze. The keel of the ship hit sand, causing all to lurch with a stop. The now trio leapt into the surf, the warm water up to their waists, followed by a second trio of muscled sailors whose job it was to push the Tane back into the sea. Do not get too far, Chandra ordered as they, along with the oarsmen, pushed the Tane free from the sand's grip. Satisfied, Chandra turned and joined her companions, reaching the shore. Phrixus looked left, right, then forward. Which way? Garret adjusted his pack and marched straight ahead. This way. Phrixus was about to pose a follow-up question, but a sudden tingle from his necklace stopped him short. The alchemist realized this was the first time he'd ever felt anything from the jewelry given to him in his youth by a man he never knew, nor saw again. While most of his companions over the years either mocked him for wearing the baubles or claimed they were worthless, Phrixus chose to believe otherwise. At worst, they were there to help calm his nerves. Both the necklace and the bracelet tingled once more. Phrixus went to look, but noticed that Garret had stopped. He followed suit, looking around. The Tane suddenly seemed very far away, and somehow the sky, which was gray, now appeared darker. What is it? Chandra asked. This is new, Garret responded. What is? Phrixus felt his fear begin to rise. Footprints. The inked dragon around Chandra's midriff moved, its snout sliding down her left arm as the ship captain drew the blade of Cymbeline with her right. We are not alone. Author's note: the biggest purpose of this particular chapter was to establish a little bit more with Chandra, of course, and then obviously the past that her and Garret seem to share, as well as set the stage for the coming conclusion of the story, of which, the way it looks right now, probably 2 more parts. So, thanks so much for sticking with it, and we'll see you next time. This chapter of Bite-Sized Tales has been brought to you under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Intro and outro music is Fantasy Motion by Alexander Nakarada, provided under a Creative Commons 4.0 license. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, we greatly appreciate reviews and recommendations to your friends. For more information about our authors, please visit bitesizedtales.com or follow us on Instagram at bite_size_tales or on Blue Sky at bitesizedtales.bsky.social. We look forward to reading to you next time.